Chosen one, this moment is not a coincidence. Your soul was drawn to this video because the heavens whispered the same message to you 7 times. The number 1111 didn't appear before your eyes for nothing, and the prayers of 33 prophets did not fall upon you by chance. You are one of the 144,000 chosen, and your presence here is a divine sign. This message was sent to awaken the secret that has been resting within your heart. What you are about to hear are not just words, but divine vibrations that will sink deep into your soul. If these words are touching you, leave your heart in the comments so the heavens can witness your testimony. Because when you write, another soul will awaken. Now prepare yourself, for this video will illuminate your path. Those who recognize the signs of God know that nothing is random. That's why your being here is already a miracle. The word spreads through you. Share this video, subscribe to Chosen Archangel, and let us rise together until we hit 1,000. Right now, you're not even aware that someone is talking about you. Those precise comments are being spoken by someone sitting across from someone else who is quite frustrated. They simply don't care about anyone anymore. This twist, however, is going to upend all you believe to be true about your own metamorphosis. This has nothing to do with how you became cold. How you become untouchable is told here. This is how the universe created your seeming apathy as the most effective defense against forces that were meant to keep you small. And as this epiphany comes to a close, you'll realize that everyone who has been griping about your coldness is actually a character in a heavenly script created just to shape you into the spiritual warrior you were always intended to be. To become. People are currently examining your silence as if it were a puzzle they must solve, even as these words are hitting you. They are analyzing why you didn't show up for their drama. They're attempting to unravel the puzzle of how someone who once cared so much about everyone and everything suddenly developed what seems to be mystical immunity to their disarray, just like archaeologists do with old ruins. However, they are unable to recognize that your metamorphosis wasn't arbitrary. You didn't even have a choice. Under the garb of emotional progress, it was a cosmic intervention. And forces beyond their comprehension arranged each and every moment that brought them to this point. Allow me to illustrate what's actually taking place behind the scenes. Group chats are humming with your name. On certain phone calls, your conduct is examined as if you were a psychological phenomena. People tell stories about how you used to be so concerned about everyone's issues, so available, and so compassionate, but now you've turned into this invulnerable being that appears to have become immune to their emotional manipulation. Here's what they can't yet see, though, that's developing in the backdrop. This is only the start of an epiphany that will fundamentally alter their perspective on authority, limits, and spiritual conflict. When you stopped responding to specific people with the same urgency you used to, it was the first sign that something more serious was going on. At the time, it most likely seemed insignificant, just a delayed answer, a small break before diving back into someone else's emergency, or a moment where you prioritized something else. However, the universe was testing whether you were prepared to advance to the next stage of your spiritual development. Your consciousness was learning to defend itself during that gap. The first breach in the dam that was about to release a torrent of divine bounds was that pause. You were going into what spiritual fighters refer to as hustle mode, but you were unaware of it at the moment. A time when the cosmos requires you to give your mission your whole attention. The findings were beginning to emerge, but you had to ignore the amusing parts. As the adage goes, those who were used to having unrestricted access to your time were suffering from withdrawal symptoms while you were locked into this frequency of success. The second sign then appeared. People began to notice that you weren't keeping up with them as frequently as you formerly did. The daily text message ceased to arrive. Regular calls started to become erratic. You grew picky in your emotional availability. As opposed to automated. The narrative becomes intriguing at this point since the individuals who observed didn't return the favor. They did not come to see how you were doing. They had developed an addiction to your attention and were the energy vampires. Suddenly, without any prior notice or justification, their supply was being cut off. The plot intensifies in unexpected ways at this point, though. You were undergoing an internal metamorphosis that was unrelated to them while they were occupied fabricating stories about your coldness. You've got a completely magical resilience to love bombing. Think of the people who would give you a lot of attention and praise when they needed something, but then vanish once they had it. These patterns can be recognized by your new spiritual operating system before they are fully developed. Additionally, they are learning that their attempts to offend you or elicit negative responses are similarly futile. You mastered the ability to take in their attempts at emotional terrorism and continue on your path without faltering. This is mastery, not numbness. This is where the story takes a turn that none of them anticipated. Something else was going on in your life that they couldn't see while they were busy whining about how uncaring you seemed to be. The bustle season, as spiritual fighters refer to it, was upon you. The universe requires you to cut off all distractions that aren't in line with your ultimate purpose during this time of extreme focus. You were not growing chilly. You were getting really focused. Your heart wasn't in danger of dying. You were learning how to keep it safe from people who might take advantage of its kindness. The most intriguing aspect of your metamorphosis is how many who formerly believed they understood you have completely lost the ability to read you. Some people are actually attempting to decipher your social media posts like they're old hieroglyphs in an attempt to uncover secret meanings that aren't there. They believe that your posts are aimed at them, that your silence is about them, and that everything you do is somehow related to your past interactions with them. Someone from your past is attempting to persuade people that you are sitting there in heartbreak, that your seeming calm is a front for your suffering, and that you're blogging less because you're upset. However, there's always someone in these discussions who keeps them grounded. They're just enjoying their lives, in my opinion. Everything is not about you. Even more potent than their illusions is the reality they are unable to accept. In fact, some of you are forming new connections, getting into new relationships, or just taking pleasure in the tranquility that comes from clearing your surroundings of poisonous people. They aren't the reason for your glow-up. It's about you being able to thrive without their negative energy consuming your light at last. The individuals who are discussing your metamorphosis are unaware that they are seeing the birth of a person who has come to appreciate their own energy above the comfort of others who have unrestricted access to it. They are witnessing someone who has acquired what seems to be a miraculous capacity to be immune to emotional terrorism, manipulation, and drama. The majority of individuals never attain what they refer to as coldness because they are too dependent on approval, too desperate to be understood, and too terrified of being labeled selfish. But they are totally unaware of something far more potent that is taking place. Naturally, you're turning off the wrong people and drawing in secret lovers. To those who are on your new frequency, the exact qualities they are criticizing, your boundaries, your selectivity, and your avoidance of drama, are alluring. Your calm vibe attracts those who value peace. You attract people who respect boundaries when you set them. Your energy management abilities are recognized and valued by those who recognize the value of safeguarding their energy. In fact, there is someone in your immediate vicinity who has been observing your change with appreciation rather than disapproval. This person is considering how admirable your self-respect is, while others are griping about how chilly you are. This person is identifying your criteria as precisely what they've been searching for, but others are labeling you as difficult. The same traits that turn off the wrong people are attracting the right ones. In the meantime, those who are angry with you for setting boundaries have unintentionally begun to promote your resistance to manipulation. In reality, every tale people tell about how icy you've gotten is a testament to your resilience. Your spiritual development is demonstrated by every complaint about how you don't care anymore. They believe that they are harming your reputation, but in reality, they are building a reputation that draws in individuals who are searching for someone who is uncontrollable, manipulable, and emotionally unstable. The plot becomes especially rewarding at this point. Some of these individuals are beginning to see the negative effects of their campaign against your character. People get more interested in what kind of change may cause such a strong reaction the more they discuss how you've changed. The more they highlight your lack of interest in their play, the more appealing that lack of interest becomes to those who are sick of being around dramatists. Here's what's leading up to a discovery that will completely upend their story. You've been busy creating something that will soon render all of their ideas absolutely meaningless, while they've been devoting time and effort to discussing you, examining you, and attempting to comprehend your metamorphosis. The universe is getting ready to reward your spiritual discipline with concrete proof that choosing serenity over popularity was the right choice, and success has a way of silencing naysayers. This is the twist that is leading to something they never saw coming. Everyone whining about your lack of interest is going to learn that there are repercussions for your absence from their commotion that they were unaware of. They now have to deal with the drama they used to bring to you on their own. They now have to learn how to control their emotions on their own, which is something they look to you for. They must now find a way to fill the gap left by the support system they formerly took for granted. This story is about a certain person. They were, let's say, the driving force behind your descent into this state of divine detachment. This individual believed they could manipulate emotions, quiet therapy, or attentional detachment to regulate your actions. They believed they could teach you to pursue them, plead for their favor, and struggle for their affections. They were genuinely teaching you to accept their departure without realizing it. Because their plan collapsed in ways they never could have predicted, the catalyst is especially ignited at this moment. They anticipated that the pressure of their condemnation would cause you to break. They expected you to finally lose it and crawl back, ready to settle for less than you deserved in order to bring the peace back. Rather, you took a step that totally altered their perception of how this game should be played. You saw their withdrawal as a present and took advantage of the chance to advance in level. You were busy learning how calm life might be without their incessant need for drama and attention, while the trigger was busy attempting to punish you by not being there. You were learning to thrive when they were expecting you to suffer. The word spreads through you. Share this video, subscribe to Chosen Archangel, and let us rise together until we hit 1,000. You were making progress and creating something better while they waited for you to plead for another opportunity. They're now confronted with a reality for which they were never ready. You really are no longer in need of them. At this point, the narrative unveils an additional dimension that amplifies the impact of your metamorphosis. You have acquired the capacity to make difficult choices that most others lack the guts to take. For business purposes, some of you have had to cut individuals off while in leadership roles. Perhaps someone was undercutting team productivity, causing drama at work, or costing your firm money. Many leaders are too weak to make the executive choice that you did, putting your organization's well-being ahead of someone's desire to be held responsible. Here's where you really benefit from your reputation as a ruthless person. People are aware that you don't offer them endless opportunities or make baseless threats. They realize that boundaries are non-negotiable when you set them. They understand that your decision is definitive. In a world full of people who will lower their standards in order to avoid conflict, this degree of decisiveness is uncommon. Additionally, it has fostered a stronger respect for your authority than their grievances against your coldness. However, because the catalyst isn't acting alone, the scenario becomes much more complicated. Your prior tendency to prioritize the needs of others over your own has benefited a whole network of people. These are the individuals who are accustomed to having unrestricted access to your resources, time, and energy without expecting anything in return. They are the ones who viewed your availability as a duty and your generosity as a sign of weakness. And as they realize that their free ride is about to an end, they are all beginning to fear. This is especially intriguing because of the way your metamorphosis has revealed the distinction between those who truly cared about you and others who were merely interested in what you might offer. The people who are angry about your limits are showing their actual intentions. They're not lamenting your friendships passing. The loss of your services has left them in mourning. The discomfort of not having access to what you were providing them, which they can't readily replace, is what hurts them, not your absence. Someone in this network is always attempting to persuade others that you have somehow taken advantage of them. But since you were the one who has advantages, this story breaks down when examined closely. It is you who have the abilities, contacts, assets, and chances. You slowed down, if nothing else, to assist those who were having trouble keeping up. And since it makes them feel better about losing access to it, they seek to reframe that generosity as exploitation. Their complaint's most illuminating feature is how they show their own personalities. In essence, they're acknowledging that the only reason they were in a relationship with you was to benefit from having you in their lives. They began targeting your character as soon as you stopped serving them in the ways they anticipated. This gives you all the information you require about what they truly appreciated about your relationship. The way that your metamorphosis has caused a chain reaction that is revealing the actual character of every relationship in your life is what really intrigues me about this story. People who are angry with you for having limits are admitting that they liked you more when you didn't have any. Those who complain about your selectiveness are acknowledging that your lack of discriminating helped them. The people who are cold calling you are admitting that they were accustomed to controlling your feelings whenever it suited them. People's reactions to your progress are showing a certain pattern that reveals all about their personalities. The safe, healthy individuals in your life are either embracing your development or merely embracing it without any fuss. They see the value of setting healthy boundaries, the wisdom of maintaining your peace, and the maturity of being selective with your energy. Since they weren't relying on your dysfunction to satisfy their needs, they don't feel threatened by your transformation. The others, on the other hand, are experiencing emotional breakdowns over your coldness, are frantically attempting to reintroduce you into your old habits, and are formulating complex hypotheses about your intentions. These individuals are revealing that they never truly cared about your welfare. They had an interest in you being available. They didn't care if you were happy. They were worried about how you could help them. Their attempt to deceive you about your own metamorphosis is very illuminating. As if change is intrinsically bad, they're telling you that you've changed and that you're not the same person you were before. They are attempting to persuade you that your tranquility is selfish in some way, that your standards are too high, and that your limits are excessive. This is the terminology used by those who profited from your lack of boundaries and are now having to cope with the fallout from their mistreatment of you. Someone is attempting to persuade others that you have become conceited, that success has altered you, and that you have forgotten your origins in a certain discussion that is currently taking place. However, there's another individual in that conversation, let's call them the truth teller, who frequently breaks off their story to provide reality checks. What you're saying about them doesn't seem to matter to them. The truth teller continues to make observations. They're just enjoying their lives, in my opinion. And because it shows how pointless their entire battle against your peace is, this small observation is making the complainers go completely crazy. In this story, the truth teller stands for something important. Some individuals respect and understand who you have become. Some people see through your seeming indifference to see your strength, your selectivity to see wisdom, and your boundaries to see self-respect in action. Because they are confident enough in themselves to value your progress, these people don't feel frightened by it. This is what's leading up to a big discovery. A viewpoint that is quite different from the complainer's story is being shared by the truth teller in private discussions with people who know you. They are discussing your increased level of focus, productivity, and apparent calmness. They're observing that you're booked and occupied in the best possible way, not overburdened or worried, but deliberately involved in activities that are genuinely important to you. While the complainers are making noise, this alternate story is slowly gaining traction, and the contrast makes the complainers appear more and more petty and compulsive. The truth teller is pointing out proof that you're thriving precisely because you've eliminated their drama from your life, while they're watching every action you do, searching for clues that you're secretly sad without them. Others, meantime, are so fixated on your metamorphosis that they are formulating complex hypotheses regarding your reasons. They are searching for hidden meanings in your social media posts. They interpret every action, or inaction, as though you're communicating with them in code. They are unable to see the plain reality because they are so certain that everything you do has something to do with them. You've just gone about your life. This is the realization that will alter everything. You never became cold or heartless on your path to this level of heavenly indifference. The goal was to become spiritually immune to manipulation of emotions. In reality, everyone who helped you get to this point was acting as a cosmic trainer, teaching you how to develop an unwavering feeling of self-worth. Under the appearance of romantic conflict, the universe has been putting you through a rigorous spiritual combat training. You learned to appreciate your vitality from every energy vampire that sapped it. Every manipulator who attempted to place blame on you taught you to believe your gut instead of their stories. You learned to use your compassion strategically from everyone who viewed your generosity as weakness. Every event that made you question your own sanity taught you to rely on your inner understanding above external validation. You've now attained a state of awareness where you can observe the game being played all around you without feeling pressured to join in. It's possible to see individuals try to manipulate you without becoming emotionally engrossed. You may watch drama play out without feeling obligated to make it right. It's possible to hear criticism without taking it at its value. This is the appearance of mastery. Additionally, it is frightening to those who are still caught in people-pleasing and codependency cycles. Every like is a light. Every comment is a testimony. Every subscription is a voice added to the 1,000 we are reaching for. Be one of them today. In this cosmic chess game, the catalyst is about to make their last move, but they are unaware that they are already in checkmate. They intend to make a sensational attempt to compel you to return to their sphere of influence. Perhaps it will be a fictitious emergency. Perhaps it will be an attempt at reconciliation that turns out to be nothing more than a ploy. Perhaps it will be a public assault intended to harm your reputation. However, they're going to find out that you've become impervious to their whole strategy. At this point, everything comes together in a revelation that completely changes the plot. When the catalyst strikes, the old you is expected to react with typical patterns of fear, rage, or guilt. Rather, they come across something they never expected. Absolute and utter disregard. Not the sort of apathy that's attempting to make a statement. Real, honest indifference that comes from realizing that their opinion of you has nothing to do with your life's purpose, not the kind that hides injured sentiments. Their entire perception of their authority over you is destroyed by the response they receive, or, more precisely, by the absence of it. They understand that every one of their plans, every manipulation technique, and every effort to make you feel bad, sorry, or accountable for their feelings are bouncing off you like bullets off armor. They must face the reality that they no longer possess the capacity to upset your tranquility. And they become more desperate in their actions as a result of this knowledge. It becomes increasingly clear to everyone observing that they, not you, are the issue the more dramatically they act. More individuals begin to wonder why they are so fixated on someone who supposedly doesn't important to them as they attempt to persuade others that you are cold and cruel. It becomes increasingly clear that they are the ones who are unable to let go the more effort they put into attempting to capture your interest. In the meantime, something lovely is taking place in your life that provides the perfect counterpoint to their mayhem. While you were still caught up in their drama, opportunities are emerging that would not have been possible otherwise. Instead of attempting to drain your energy, those who value it are beginning to show up. Events are coming up that need for the precise concentration and emotional fortitude you've gained via this procedure. The universe is giving you concrete proof that you made the proper decisions as a reward for your spiritual discipline. Every week, during our Zoom sessions, you can work through challenging insights with others who recognize that some of life's most traumatic events can serve as our best instructors. This is the chosen Archangel inner order. We don't promote resentment. We develop wisdom. Your gift of being able to perceive people for who they really are will shield you from betrayals in the future. Strength, not weakness, is demonstrated by your ability to forgive while upholding boundaries. Your knowledge was not bestowed freely, it was acquired via experience. Make connections with truth-loving people. Join the inner order of chosen Archangel. The description contains a link. Rome. The individuals who were griping about your coldness begin to suffer the repercussions of their own behavior. Their own lives begin to stagnate as a result of the energy they were using to critiquing you rather than bettering themselves. Instead, they become consumed with the drama they were attempting to entice you into. They receive an intensified version of the devastation they were causing in your life. In those discussions, the truth-teller begins to speak up more forcefully, highlighting trends that the others were too preoccupied with the drama to see. They remark, "Have you ever thought that perhaps they're not responding because they're too busy creating something incredible? Have you considered the possibility that their quiet is shielding them from precisely this type of negativity? What if they are not being cruel? Could it be wisdom?" The story completely changes at this point. The individuals presenting themselves as victims. of your coldness are compelled to face the potential that they were, in fact, barriers to your development. The people who said you took advantage of them must acknowledge that they were attempting to take advantage of you. The people who claimed that you didn't care about them must admit that they also never truly cared about your welfare. What you could do for them was all that mattered to them. However, the most potent discovery is taking place inside of you. You're coming to understand that you didn't descend into coldness on your way to this point of heavenly indifference. It was a rise to enlightenment. You were not becoming less human. You were becoming a divine being. You weren't growing cold. Instead of acting impulsively, you were learning to use your heart intelligently. Without realizing it, everyone who voiced complaints about your metamorphosis was essentially attesting to your strength. The same people who are ignoring you are suddenly surreptitiously observing your life with a mix of envy and adoration. They're beginning to realize what they lost when they pushed you away after witnessing the harmony you've brought about, the success you're achieving, and the wholesome relationships you're fostering. The catalyst is at a turning point in their life when they must decide whether to accept reality and move on with their life or to keep fighting for your peace. A small percentage of people in their situation have a true awakening, but most prefer to reinforce their illusions rather than confront the reality of their actions. In any case, you've become resistant to their influence, thus their decision can no longer change your course. The way the narrative ends has a poetic quality. The first people to see the power of divine indifference are the ones who encouraged you to cultivate it. They set up the circumstances that compelled you to change beyond their control. They are now forced to engage with someone who has moved past the game they were attempting to play. You are unbreakable, which is what they wanted to see instead of you being broken. As people start to see that what they were taking as a lack of concern was actually the best kind of self-care, the discussions about your coldness start to change. People weren't kept out by your boundaries. They served as filters, making sure that you only received the appropriate energy. You weren't arrogant for being selective. Choosing quality above quantity in all aspects of your life was a wise decision. Do you recall the first chat we had? An extremely irritated person sitting across from someone else declares that they no longer care about anyone. That discussion is still going on. However, a new person has joined it. Someone who doesn't feel frightened by what you've become and who understands it. Perhaps this fresh voice indicates that their lack of concern isn't the issue. Perhaps the issue is that we become accustomed to their concern for us taking precedence over their own needs. Perhaps appropriate limits are what we're referring to as coldness. Perhaps when self-respect finally finds its voice, it sounds more like what we're calling apathy. Because it makes them consider their own actions, entitlements, and incapacity to live without someone else controlling their emotions. The initial complainers don't want to hear this point of view. However, the truth seed has been sown, and truth has a way of flourishing even in unfriendly soil. You're living in the reality that this whole voyage was intended to produce in the meantime. You've developed the ability to love passionately without losing who you are. You don't have to exhaust yourself to help others. Relationships can be maintained without compromising your tranquility. It is possible to show concern for others without making their concerns your top priority. You've managed to strike the ostensibly unattainable balance between self-preservation and compassion. The folks who continue to gripe about your metamorphosis are becoming less and less significant to your narrative. While you're focused on the future you're creating with your newfound freedom, they're mired in the past, attempting to figure out why you changed. While you're busy becoming the person you were always intended to be, they have an interest in perpetuating stories about who you were in the past. The most important lesson to be learned from the entire story is that the people who helped you get to this point were never the main focus of your path to divine indifference. In a story that was always about your own spiritual development, they were merely supporting players. They achieved their goal by putting you in a situation where you had to decide between establishing real peace by sound boundaries and preserving false peace through self-sacrifice. In reality, everyone who voiced complaints about your coldness was a mirror reflecting patterns you needed to change. In reality, every circumstance that caused you to doubt your capacity for self-care was a test of your readiness to care for yourself with the same fervor that you had been showing for others. Every instance of seeming apathy was really a flash of intense self-awareness masquerading as emotional distance. You will continue to talk about how much you no longer care for a long time. However, those who have them are beginning to understand that their views on your boundaries have no bearing on your life, therefore they are already losing their influence. You've made a world in which having other people's acceptance is wonderful, but it's not essential to your tranquility. You've created a life where others' perceptions of your decisions are accepted but not necessary for your self-assurance. In spiritual combat, triumph looks like this: the transcendence of your adversary's power to influence your inner condition, not their victory. The development of immunity to the impact of criticism, not its suppression. Not the removal of drama from your surroundings, but the development of an unwavering tranquility that persists despite external events. In this story, the selected ones who identify with themselves are the ones who have discovered that sometimes the greatest act of love is to not let someone else's dysfunction to continue. When someone has shown that they don't truly care about you, sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is to cease caring about them. Sometimes a period of seeming coldness that is truly spiritual purification in disguise is the first step on the road to true compassion. You have gained abilities from your visit to this place of heavenly indifference that most people never acquire. The capacity for composure in the face of chaos. The capacity to uphold limits under duress. We are on the way to 1,000 subscribers, and your action makes the difference. Subscribe, like, and comment to amplify the mission of Chosen Archangel. The ability to discern between demands that are manipulative and those that are truly necessary. The ability to judge when having someone in your life costs you more than it helps. In reality, those who are expressing how much you no longer care are forming a testament to your metamorphosis that will encourage other selected individuals who are prepared to undergo comparable life adjustments. They're unintentionally promoting your independence from their validation, your freedom from their manipulation, and your freedom from their approbation. Unknowingly, they are spreading the message about the value of sound boundaries and spiritual self-respect. This is the story you have selected. In this way, the universe shaped you into a person who could care for others without exhausting themselves, love without losing yourself, and keep the peace without sacrificing yourself. The individuals who brought you to this point of heavenly indifference provided the best present they could have given you. They made you learn that your value was never based on their approval, even if they never meant it as a gift. Their presence was never a condition of your peace. And you always had authority without their consent. Continue to keep the peace. Continue to uphold those boundaries. Continue to respect that divine apathy that appears to be coldness to those who profit from your unbridledness. You've developed into the person you needed to be. And the universe is going to reveal to you why every single moment of this journey was vital to the next chapter of your life. Chosen one, remember this: heaven never sends a word without purpose. If this message has stirred your spirit, let it shine brighter. Press like so the light spreads to others walking in darkness. Subscribe to Chosen Archangel so you never miss the next divine revelation. And share your thoughts in the comments below. Your testimony may be the very spark that awakens another soul. Until we meet again, stay covered by the wings of heaven and walk boldly in your calling.